I would like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular session of the Boonton Township Board of Education held for the purpose of transacting appropriate board business in compliance with Chapter 231 laws of 1975. The notice of this meeting was advertised in the Morris County Daily Record. Copies of the agenda of this meeting were appropriately posted and made available to the public.
Okay, Mr. Chen was sworn in prior to the meeting. Mr. Brantner?
Here.
Mr. Cabana? Mr. Chen?
Here.
Mr. Eaton? Here. Mrs. Herman?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. LeVar?
Here.
Mrs. McBride? And Mr. Searcy. Also present, Dr. Angelo, Superintendent Principal. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I would like to welcome Mr. Chen. Thank you. Congratulations. And at this time, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on our agenda is a presentation by Dr. Lendez about the Start Strong test results.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try this with everyone, see if this works here. Can everyone hear me? A little bit better? Yeah? In masks and everything else. And everyone can see the Promethean board here for you. So, first of all, thank you very much for having me. It's been a wonderful start to the school year, and I guess we owe it all to the state for offering up an assessment first thing at the beginning of the school year. So before I even get into the presentation, I do want to thank all of our teachers. I am so proud, couldn't be prouder of our students and their performance. The flexibility that they've shown when it comes to scheduling, when it comes to covering, when it comes to I don't want to say the interruption because we're pretty much testing pros. We do have it down pat of not letting it disrupt students who are not testing in the building. But we did have an expectation of coming into school at the beginning of this year to be normal. We loved it, the idea of a full day, lunch and recess. And testing right at the beginning of the year is very different. We usually expect that in the spring. So with that, I just want to thank the teachers and our families. Our attendance was wonderful. And John Gertner, who's not here, brand new IT coordinator, who also for the first time we had to test on Chromebooks. So very different, a little different. But again, we did it like champs with technology, preparation from our teachers and everyone else. So again, very proud and just wanted to make sure that was formally recognized. So the background, let me try wearing this. Is that Madonna? Yeah, there we go. All right, a little bit better. I feel like I'm going in and out. So the background for the Start Strong assessment, we sort of heard rumblings about it. We weren't sure if it was really going to happen. We did get the green light in August, meaning that it was formally going to be an assessment for the beginning of the school year, assessing students in grades 4th through 8th on the knowledge and skills of the year prior. And the reason for that is the state said we didn't have a spring PARC assessment. So because of that, you would have used PARC results to help you inform. Granted, your results would have come in August, but it still would have allowed you to inform some instruction, some programming, students' performance, maybe take a look at students who need interventions. But they're saying if we don't have that, let's do something in the beginning of the year. So the powers that be in Trenton made sure that in early August we were all told, be ready, here's your window. And it was an early window. It started mid-September, ended 3rd week of October. And we decided, as we were talking to a lot of the teachers in our groups, that we would want this to be towards the end of September. We felt that was a good sort of point after acclimating students back into school, getting through some of the basics again, and then hitting them up with this test. So that is when we did it. We did it on September 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's supposed to be quick, flexible, standards-based. It's objective. It was not open-ended. Very different than PARC. PARC takes days. This was 1 hour. 60 minutes, start to finish. So again, a snapshot in time. Always want to start off with a slide like this because it's important to recognize how small we are. And I say that for a couple of reasons, right? It's percentages. So we also know that one student can be 3%. If you go to other districts, a couple students in and out of a proficiency level may not move that needle so much. So mathematically, it is important to note that we are smaller than other districts, so our numbers are magnified, good and bad, right? performance levels. In Park, there's 5 different levels because, again, it's a longer test. And you're talking about days of LA, days of math, hours, right? A few hours of a test. Here, because it was 60 minutes, there's basically, you're going to get lumped into 3 categories. And this is where it gets confusing. Less support, some support, strong support. Strong support is the worst of the 3 categories, meaning you did not perform as well as somebody who needs the least amount of support in an area. So you have to kind of wrap your head around the reverse whenever you saw the results. And especially in 6th grade science, they're the only ones who took science, it was in 6th grade. There was also less sum and strong for that as well. At the district level, we look at things and then we look at the teachers. In this school, we're very small, we're very fortunate that we talk all the time, that we have department meetings, that we have times when they articulate. There are times I'm involved in all of the resources and materials that they need. And there's a lot of informative discussion that goes on, regardless if we have a standardized test or not. But in this case, we want to make sure. The results came out very quickly. We did get the results within probably 2 weeks after the window sort of closed. And we made sure that our teachers got those reports immediately. And those reports were informative because it was not just about how a student did, what question that student got wrong. We also got what topics were the least perfect, like the students didn't perform the best on. So now a teacher can look and say, all right, last year, now granted, we have to remember last year, but last year, this topic was the least proficient. And now with the information, we can go back to that teacher, we can talk about where in the year did you do that? How much time did you dedicate to that? So at a district level, this is so important for us. Our teachers loved this information. We couldn't wait to get those reports in their hands, and for good reason. I have a couple in yellow because it's the most important, right? Examining those data reports, making sure that we're having those informative conversations. But again, they're also looking at everything within reason, folks. It's one data point. So I'll just mention that for now, and we'll keep going through the presentation. But it's important that we're not lumping students immediately into like, well, he scored very well, he must go into GT. Or he didn't do so well, so he needs extended instructional support, like basic skills. Or we should INRS that student, he did very poorly. But it's a data point, right? It's a data point. Teachers already started teaching these students. We're already into the 2nd month of school. We already know we're seeing things that can either affirm or reaffirm or offer insight. It can do lots of things to help us build a picture of a student and how they're doing. So all really important when we're focusing, of course, on the student, but also on our own planning. So maybe if we're talking about, polynomials or something like that, we can say, all right, let's make sure we're giving that a little bit more attention. Our students didn't do so well on that. And then here are the results, when we're talking about results. So what you wanted to do, remember, there's not going to be a quiz at the end of this, but less and sum are the 2 areas that you always want to always look at. So less and sum together give you who is at or above grade level. At or above grade level. So very positive, and we can do the addition for you in a minute. Strong support are the students we do want to look at. We do want to ensure that we are examining and monitoring and seeing if there's a trend, seeing what their grades were like, seeing what the teachers are saying about these students, just ensuring that they're not falling through the cracks, of course. But less than some support is who's at or above grade level. And this is in language arts. If you look at the results in math, again, everything less than some together create who's at or above grade level. And then strong support are the students who struggled the most from last year's material. Remember, a 60-minute test on last year's material. And in 6th grade science, I just highlight them in yellow there. Some and less together, and the strong support students in science. Important that in the spring, 5th and 8th graders are going to take science. So they didn't. In the fall, they're asking 6th graders to take it because they would have been 5th graders, and that's the testable year. So that's how they're coming up with 6th grade being the grade level that is a science test. But in the spring, our current 5th and our current 8th will be taking the science assessment. And so this is basically combining, right? So if you look at grade 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, grade 3 did not take the Start Strong, but they will be taking the Park in the spring. The reason for that is 2nd grade is not a testable year. So if I tested a current 3rd grader, I don't have a test for what is a 2nd grader supposed to be doing at the state level. At the state level, we have tons of tests for 2nd graders, but not in trend. So if you take a look here, you look at 88, 90, 70, 97, 92, again, great, fantastic, I think excellent. Our teachers were very happy with the results as well. Very proud of how our students were doing. And again, this is affirming a lot of times what teachers are already seeing. Nobody was very surprised. It didn't seem like, I can't believe it. You know, it wasn't anything that was alarming. Are there areas where they were digging into the data to understand why maybe that particular topic or category of skill was not as successful as they thought, perhaps from the student's perspective? Absolutely. But for overall student performance, this is where we're at. There are students who have IEPs or 504s. We have a small percentage of them, and even smaller when you only look at who's been tested. So with that, I'm not going to break it down by grade level. It's a few students in the grade level. But when we look at them all together, this is all together. So it is a little different, and for good reason. Students that have IEPs, that have 504s are struggling. They are offered a lot of interventions and supports, and clearly we want to make sure these students are getting the most intensive of support. Maybe that is replacement classes. Maybe that's pull-out support classes. Perhaps that's some other type of service that they're getting to help this less support number get higher. Definitely looking at those students for the spring to ensure that they're given some improvement. Things to consider when looking at any scores, right? I always start off with this quote. I love it, and I've used it all in all my career. And I guess Einstein said it, is what they say, but not everything meaningful can be measured, and not everything measured is meaningful. If you think about it for a minute, this is great. You've got this data, and you're all excited about it, and you're looking at it, but what does it really mean? Does it really measure what is the most meaningful thing about education? Well, not in my view, no. But it does measure what, at this moment in time, the state pretty much is indicating is important. But there are other factors that go into any test, and you could do this with anything, whether it's a chapter test in your child's classroom or any other kind of assessment. There was a social and emotional toll that went on last year, and you could even argue still going on. The hybrid learning, we didn't have a full day of school. We had learning boosts in the afternoon. Students had a lot of interruption in their lives, whether it was their families, whether it was themselves, whether there was loss, literally loss from family members. There was adjusting to teaching practices. You have teachers that have been teaching for 20 years a certain way, all of a sudden being told it's all digital. Or students who've never been on Chromebooks before or Google Classroom before, now being told this is the primary vehicle. So there is a huge learning curve to last year that we hope we never want to repeat, obviously. And there was a lot of absences. Sometimes our teachers were absent, some substitutes were here, we had replaced teachers that had leaves. So there was a lot of factors that went into whatever it is that you see as scores. And ultimately, I always want to say this to myself, it was one 60-minute moment in time that wraps up a whole 180 days worth of school last year. And when you say it like that, it kind of puts things in perspective. I'm not saying that we shouldn't keep pushing to get better, but again, it's just one data point. And I always said, I know that Dr. Angelillo said he went to have a physical today. And we always kind of joke about our health sometimes. This job is giving us so much gray hair. Him more than me. But right now, you want to measure my health, and you just looked at my cholesterol. It's bad. It's bad. Or my blood pressure. One data point. But if you were to say, or just your weight, or just if you just took one data point, you might say that's not enough to measure if you're healthy. There's a lot of things. Is it lifestyle? Is it what you eat? Is it your other numbers of your blood work, right? So this is just one thing. I'm not ignoring it. We're not saying that we're not looking at it. We have looked at it extensively. It is now December. We really feel like this is sort of, I don't want to say old news, but we've done this. We looked at this already. This was our pre-data, right, to know where to start the year. We're in the year. And now we're looking forward to what else is going to happen, and that's obviously, what do we do with student data? What do we do with testing data? It's what we do with all our data, all the time. Whether a teacher is giving tests in her own classroom, she's always looking at where's the support, where's the pattern? Do I need to offer more help to this child? What in my pacing might not be working right? What did they not do maybe enough last year? Let me talk with those in those department meetings. So we have a lot of things that we're always talking about. And I have the luxury of going into a lot of department meetings and grade level meetings and bringing up these topics. What materials do you need? Are you lacking something? Do you need more practice books? Do you need another program? Is IXL better than measuring up live? So these are the great questions that we can talk about that help our teachers keep working at helping students. Looking ahead, right, ensuring that our standards are aligned, the standards are aligned with what we're using aligned with the standards, right? So the idea here is that what we're using, our materials, should be what the state is expecting us to be teaching. We shouldn't have to supplement a lot. It's when teachers go too rogue, right, supplementing too much, there can be some margin of error. You want some good material that really anchor your instruction. Tying everything back to the standards. Using best practices in the classroom. Tying in a lot of SEL this year especially. Making sure that those best practices include SEL, social and emotional learning. What staff development opportunities may come up? Do we need more help with rigor? Do we want to talk more about resilience? Students have no grit. They don't want to work really hard and mentally sweat. So we need to teach them some resiliency with that, maybe. And then if you're looking ahead, mark your calendars, everyone. Spring testing starts May 2nd, and it's for grades 3 through 8, and that we are ready for, we've been ready for, we'll know how, what we're doing there. And individual score reports were just mailed to us 2 days ago here. Every parent, they're in the mail, so you should be getting them very soon, and that gives you some details on how your child, son or daughter, did. With some, some more specifics and, in what areas they might have needed some more support, where they do really well. So individual score reports are in the mail. We did have until February, I think, to report out on this, but I feel like why not? I mean, I feel like February is very, very late, but that's the good news. And then, of course, the individual score reports are an early holiday gift from us, and they could have went out in January, but might as well get them out earlier. So that concludes my presentation. I appreciate the time, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Winters.
I just want to mention that I really appreciate all the time and effort that Dr. Winters has put into looking at the data with the staff members and creating the programs that we have that are so meaningful to our kids. And as Dr. Lendis indicated, we were not required to report out on this until the middle of February, which is what some districts will be doing. And we've already had time to discuss this data with our staff, so we thought, why wait until the middle of February when we have an opportunity to present? Let's present on it now. So thank you to Dr. Lendis, and as she said, thank you as always to our staff members for the job that they do with our kids.
Quick question, if parents have questions after they get their results, should they reach out to their teacher, reach out to you?
Either one. If it's about how to read it, you can ask me. If it's more about, are you seeing this in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
Or have or when is this going to be coming up as a topic, or is there already something like that? That'd be more to the teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Winters. And at this time, we have board business motion number 1. May I have a motion, please? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any questions, comments, or discussion? If not, the question's on the adoption of board business motion number 1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. And any abstentions? Okay, that brings us to the business administrator report, secretary's report. Mr. Murray.
Okay, just a couple of items. We have, we're definitely fully in the budget season now. Tentative 22-23 budget. The administration continues to meet to discuss educational budgetary needs of the district, talking about enrollment, staffing needs for the new school year. All the budget requests now have been received from the staff. It's in my office now. We're reviewing all those items, looking at how that will fit into the budget. Finance committee will be meeting throughout the process going forward. And again, what I did want to mention too, since we're talking about the pandemic and COVID and so forth, we continue to be vigilant every day about maintaining increased levels of cleaning and sanitizing throughout the building and our buses as well, due to the ongoing pandemic. All of the high-touch areas continue to be, throughout the building, continue to be cleaned, disinfected during the school day, and the buses are done after the runs for the day. And just a reminder that with the upcoming winter recess, the building will be closed from December 23rd through January 2nd. And at our next meeting is the reorganization meeting, which is on January 5th.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Murray. That brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Angelillo.
Good evening, everyone. For your information, a couple of things. I have an articulation meeting scheduled with the Mountain Lake Superintendent Mike Featherman next week to discuss or begin discussions on the district calendar for next year and other administrative topics. And certainly, as I've said all along, Mr. Featherman and I have a very good rapport. I appreciate the collaboration with him and the administrative staff over at Mountain Lakes and look forward to the dialogue. Speaking of that, we have a professional development opportunity that will be shared with Mountain Lakes and our phys ed and health departments early on in the new year that was organized by Dr. Lendis and Dr. Bangia in Mountain Lakes in order to strengthen our implementation of the 2020 revised comprehensive physical education and health standards. So more to follow there. I sent out a notice to our families in the virtual backpack that in last week's Cali report, the entire state moved to high or the orange risk level. We're in the northwest region, which includes Morris, Passaic, Sussex, and Warren counties. We sent information to our families via the backpack regarding the impact of quarantining as a result of this news. And we obviously just really do appreciate everyone's continued vigilance and monitoring for symptoms and doing all that they can on the home front to keep their kids safe. As Mr. Murray said, we continue to do things here in the building. With that, wishing all of you, obviously, and you and your families a very, very safe, healthy, and happy holiday season. And a reminder, I think Mr. Murray mentioned that the district is closed from the 24th until the 2nd, and we reopen on the 3rd. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you, Dr. Angelillo. You've had a chance to read the nurse's report and attendance report, so that brings us to accommodations. Back to Dr. Angelillo.
Commendations this evening. Kudos and congratulations to Mrs. Kovart and Mrs. Martell and all of the RVS musicians on a pair of successful and enjoyable winter concerts last week, and a special thanks to Mrs. Fusco and her students in art for the lovely decorations. Many thanks to the Student Council for taking over the administration of the monthly service project of School Spirit and the food drive, and also thanks to them for orchestrating last week's fun holiday spirit week. Many thanks to the staff members who underwent CPR training on Monday. I think there were about a dozen of us that went through CPR and recertification training along with AED training. And thank you to the CPR professionals who were on hand for the training. Shout out to the following staff members who provided Power PD, Power Professional Development at recent staff meetings, to Mrs. Tolles, Mrs. Pop, and Mrs. Aves. To our Wall of Fame students for November, in pre-K, Mila McIntyre and Brady Person. In kindergarten, McGuire Lynch, Julia Rahm, Elijah Vincenti, and Daniel Zuniga. In first grade, to Finley Leeds, Stone Papa, Maria Victoria Perez Boston, Rocco Regano, Michael Kern, and Fiona He. In second grade, Hannah Egan and Maverick McIntyre. And in third grade, Sophia Bagley, Josie Chen, Eliana D'Souza, and Chloe Stoller. To our Falcons of the Month for November, in fifth grade, Javier Mendez. In sixth grade, Marcella Bagley. In seventh grade, Harley Ross. And in eighth grade, Andrew Goodell.
Thank you, Dr. Angelillo. You've all had a chance to read correspondence 1 through 3, so that brings us to open session number 1. The first public comment period will be limited to agenda items only. The second public comment period will be open to any topic. Please be mindful that public comment periods are available to enable the public to give comments and feedback to the board. Personal matters and day-to-day operations are not appropriate subjects for board meetings. These can always be most effectively resolved with the appropriate staff members or administrators according to the chain of command concept. Questions may be directed to the appropriate school personnel or forwarded through email. Please state your name and address for the record, and all comments are limited to 5 minutes. Anyone from the public wish to address the board on agenda items? Yes.
Ellen Hardy, 24 Split Rock Road. I wanted to thank Dr. Lendis for sharing the information on the Start Strong assessment, and just wanted to ask the same question that we've been asking. I know it's been discussed quite a bit, but it would be great for the public to receive handouts during the meeting, not just tonight's presentation, but in general. I know it's been discussed. Has there been any further resolution on whether or not the public will be getting the same handouts that the board gets when our meetings, and then secondly, wish that we could have gotten a handout from tonight's presentation. I understand that it's going to be available tomorrow, but when you have a presentation like this that is data heavy, it's really helpful, not just for us, but for all of you to have a hard copy so that you can jot down notes or ask questions. So it just, I think, would be much more beneficial to everybody if there could be more data sharing. Wonder if you can give us some thoughts on that.
Yes, we are almost through our process of reviewing our process of attachments. We have had some discussions in our board committees. We've reached out to our council, and we're about to finalize those discussions and hopefully have some answers for you very, very soon.
Great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the effort. Thank you.
Thank you. And would anyone else from the public wish to address the board on agenda items at this time? Yes.
Jennifer O'Neill, 72 Old Denver Road. I don't know if this is the first time that the board heard the Start Strong results. So I don't know if my question is for the board, for Dr. Lewis. I'll ask Dr. Lewis a question. But my question is, will this be presented to parents in any other form other than uploading the document, the presentation that we watch? With like a Q&A or something like that. And the other question is, are there any results by student? If I were a parent, like, when you park, you get a result for your child. So you really have an idea of what's going on with your child. But this is a very, kind of broad, by grade. I'd want to know if my child was in one of those, I don't know if I'm going to get the category right, strong support areas or the lower percentage. Is anything like that available? I don't know if the board can answer that question if you're just hearing these results for the first time. And then, one other question. If Dr. Angelillo, when you're meeting with Mr. Federman, will you be discussing the sending contract that we have with
Okay, thank you for your questions. I'm going to hopefully I'll try to get address each thing. I think I missed one. This is the first time the board has seen the Start Strong results, so I can tell you that. I'm not sure if there are going to be any other presentations, at this point. My understanding is that individual, I think Dr. Linda's mentioned that I think you will be getting individual results mailed home for each child, so you'll be able to see your individual child's results. And hopefully at that point, by looking at those individual results, maybe looking at the presentation online, if you have additional questions, I think Dr. Linda said you could ask, depending on the nature of your questions, either reach out to her or your student's teacher in the subject area of concern. And, let's see, and then I'm not sure as far as Dr. Angelillo, the agreement, is something that the boards discuss, between them as it gets closer. There might be some misconceptions out there if the agreement expires, like we have nowhere to go, but, by state law, there's a very lengthy process to, change that relationship. So what the agreement does is puts into writing certain facets of our agreement with them. We could have a send-receive relationship with any district without a with an agreement, but each year you'd have to recalculate the tuition based on a per pupil cost. And every year, you would have to be doing some sort of forensic audit of what they put into that calculation. And for budgeting purposes, it would be a nightmare. I believe that's how our arrangement started with Mountain Lakes. I wasn't, obviously, I lived here, but I wasn't familiar with what was going on in the 1990s when that happened. And that caused some friction, and that's what resulted in the agreements that came after that. What the agreement does is puts into place, the actual tuition cost that we've agreed to. And it also calls for increases each year. So the only thing we have to budget for each year is how many kids are we sending times the tuition amount versus what will the number, instead, without that agreement, it would be what number are we going to have. And there are also different facets in the agreement where if there are outside special education costs, our district incurs those directly. Every 10 years, we, before the 10-year agreement ends, our boards will get together and discuss the agreement. I'm not sure, I don't believe that Dr. Angelo is, actively discussing our agreement. I'm sure, things come up between them that, might be of interest, and when we get to the process, I'm sure each of our superintendents will share with our boards any, concerns, and then at that point, we'll address them.
Okay, thank you.
If that helps.
Mrs. O'Neill, I just wanted to add for you that, more specifically, so no, I'm not having pointed conversations with their superintendent about the agreement, honestly, because I don't want to usurp the authority of our respective boards in the negotiation process. However, understand that there are things that I discuss with him, assuming we're attending Mountain Lakes High School, that would be along the lines of the indoctrination programs that are being afforded to our 8th grade students as they migrate up to the 9th grade, what that might look like, what we might see ultimately as beneficial to our students to make them feel as though they're Lakers when they arrive there. So it's those sorts of conversations that he and I will have. There will be general conversations, I'm sure, about other things that may be related to the contract, and certainly nothing specific because that's in the board's purview.
Understand, thank you very much for answering the question.
Thank you. Is there any other members of the public that wish to address the board on agenda items at this time? Okay, if not, we'll move on to next page. Liaison reports, starting with the Education Foundation.
Okay. The Boonton Township Education Foundation has their December meeting tomorrow night. The 4Kids wraps up this week, the 4Kids fall session, and the planning of the winter 4Kids session is in the works. If anyone has ideas, feel free to email them to that foundation. They will finalize another round of grants tomorrow night with voting. We have about 6 grants, which they're excited to vote on. The golf outing will be May 9th, 2022 at Crystal Springs. In February, they'll be doing the family bowling, which we've done for years. It's a fun family tradition. And the school play will be Frozen Junior. It's March 25th through 27th, and tryouts will be February 7th and February 8th for the 5th through 8th graders. Practices start February 23rd. They're right after school. And we're excited to, and we're grateful that we have the support of the school to be able to get back to performing arts. So, and that's everything.
Great, thank you. Home and School Association.
Yes, we had a meeting November 30th. Home and School, they mentioned about the liaisons for the upper and lower grades. They're planning the class parties for the holidays. Just today wrapped up the holiday boutique, which I think was a success. It went for the past 3 days for the children to go in and purchase items for the holidays for their families and friends. There are dates on the schedule right now for the DC trip, which is the 8th through the 10th of June. They had extended the teacher wish list, extended it until December 3rd, so that's passed, but they had 15 responses as of November 30th, and the teachers had a little extension if there was any more to come in. And the next meeting is January 4th, and that's all.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us to Morris County School Boards Association.
Yes, the last meeting was held on November 18th. I actually uploaded 2 documents to our board drive earlier today. One being the agenda, so everyone can take a look at that, and the other being a document of the legislation that was reviewed in the meeting. And the folder I put it in just for our board members to know is the board miscellaneous docs folder, so take a look at those documents in there. Just to give a quick recap on some of the items that were discussed, it was mentioned that there was 5,000 attendees at the New Jersey School Board meeting, and that those sessions will be available until December 28th on demand. Charlene Peterson gave an update that there were 103 open seats in the recent elections, and that 45 of them, so almost half, were filled by brand-new board members, which is very impressive. That brings me to the next topic, that there's 2 weekend trainings coming up. I know we have 2 new board members here tonight. One is the first weekend in February, and the other is the first weekend in March. And this is the 3 R's, roles, responsibilities, and resources for new board members. So very important to have that training. They do cap it at 100 people, and John would have to register the new board members if you choose to attend one of those meetings.
In person?
It's a hybrid. They do one night, Friday night virtual, and then you go at to the Princeton Marriott, I believe. And then, that's basically all I wanted to mention, but when you do look at the agenda, you'll also see on the second page, there's a number of board member certifications and milestones throughout Morris County. So not just some of the board member certifications, like certified board members, master board members, but also those members across the county that got their 10 years and 15 years. I know Mary, we got 2 10-year certifications, as did John.
Well, we have been on for 20, so.
Yes, it feels that way, I'm sure. But, so that's the update. And the next meeting is on February 23rd. And that's going to be about special ed after the pandemic. That's the topic.
Okay, great, thank you. And New Jersey School Boards Association.
Okay, that meeting was November 20th, and there were 3 items of topic. Basically, the first one was, as Grace mentioned, the virtual workshop was a success with over 5,000 registrants, and they met their financial goal. And you can still access that remotely until 12/28. The second item is that they're rolling out an online university hub, and it's for all K-12 school districts and all education stakeholders. And they're partnering with the NJASA, and they are looking to have over 100 courses, and they will be subscription-based. And the last item is that on the 19th of November, they formally approved their strategic plan for 2022 to 24. We will have 5 areas of focus, including student growth, services for tomorrow's world, professional learning. The 4th one is advocacy to the state of New Jersey. And the last is future innovations. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. And let's see, that brings us to Township Committee.
Yes, Santa visits on Sunday, December 19th. The Boonton Township Fire Department just received word from the North Pole that Santa Claus and his helpers will be passing through Boonton Township on Sunday, December 19th, starting at 12 noon. Boonton Township Fire Department will be escorting him on a fire truck through town and handing out boxes of sweet treats to kids who come outside to see us. Just a reminder, the event will begin at noon, but there is no specified times throughout the afternoon for him to be in each neighborhood. Listen for the sirens, and when you see the flashing lights, come on out to say hi. That's all.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to that. And let's see, Mountain Lakes, Mr. Sergio was not able to make it tonight. I can probably throw this in now. Okay. He basically said he's very sorry he couldn't make it tonight. He has some health issues, and he just wanted to say, thanks to all of his colleagues on the board for all the years, for all the support you gave him over his 13 years on the board, and he's hopefully going to come to our January meeting to thank you all personally. But he sends his regrets that he cannot be here this evening, his last meeting. But I guess for Mountain Lakes, I guess for anyone interested, you could look. I think they posted their meetings on their website, so you could take a look at that. In lieu of his report. Educational Services Commission, I attended their meeting last Wednesday. At this meeting, there was nothing, it was mainly routine matters that they handled, so nothing to report there. And Boonton Township Green Team,
There's no report.
okay, great. Thank you. And that brings us to finance motions 1 through 8. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Any questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, if not, the question is on the adoption of finance motions 1 through 8. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say no. Any abstentions? Thank you. That brings us to personnel motions 1 through 4. May I have a motion, please? All motions. That's not good. So that'll be personnel motions 1 through 5. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Is there a second? Okay, remember that email. Any questions, comments, or discussion? If not, the questions on the adoption of personnel motions 1 through 5. This is a roll call.
Mr. Brandner.
Yes.
Mrs. Cabana.
Yes.
Mr. Chen. Mr. Eaton.
Yes.
Mrs. Herman.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson. Yes. Mr. LeVar.
Yes.
Mrs. McBride.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda are program motions 1 through 2. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Is there a second? Any questions, comments, or discussion? If not, the question is on the adoption of program motions 1 through 2. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Any abstentions? And that brings us policies for first reading. On the policy committee, so I will summarize, I guess, the changes that are happening. In policy number 1100, we revised paragraph number 5. Let's grab the old one here. Yeah, where it's in our old policy, it starts with each year by September 30th, and in the new policy, it starts with annually the school district shall. That paragraph was upgraded to be consistent with the New Jersey School Boards Association recommended policy, so that was the only change to that. Policy 1220, we just took a look at it and we're readopting it with no changes. It appears to be customary in our school world to readopt policies after they've been sitting around for 10 years, just to show that we looked at them and we're adopting them as is currently. The same thing can be said for policy number 1230. There are no changes. We're readopting that with no changes. And lastly, the non-resident policy. We basically took our policy, discarded it, and replaced it with the New Jersey School Boards Associated recommended policies, word for word, except for 2 additions. In the policy that's online, the additions, everything is consistent with New Jersey School Boards except under children of non-resident staff members. We added language that says tuition of non-resident employee children is set annually at a rate approved by the Board of Education. Otherwise, it's all the same. And then the second addition that's different than the New Jersey School Board's policy. There are 2 paragraphs. The first one that says if a child study team evaluation is recommended, and then the next paragraph that says graduation from Boonton Township School District. I can read them if a child study team evaluation is recommended for a tuition student at a cost above and beyond standard evaluation procedures will be charged to the parent guardian. If an evaluation determines the tuition student requires extraordinary services, the cost of these services will be charged to the parent guardian. And then graduation from Boonton Township School District does not guarantee tuition pupils admission to Mountain Lakes High School. So these are basically additions to the New Jersey School Board's recommended policy, but these are for tuition students where you have someone from out of district paying to have their child come to our district and adding those requirements. With that, we have open session number 2. The second public comment period will be open to any topic. Please be mindful that public comment periods are available to enable the public to give comments and feedback to the board. Personal matters and day-to-day operations are not appropriate subjects for board meetings. These can always be most effectively resolved with appropriate staff members or administrators according to the chain of command concept. Questions may be directed to the appropriate school personnel or board through email. Please state your name and address for the record, and all comments are limited to 5 minutes. Would anyone from the public wish to address the board on any matter? Yes.
Marta Pasquarella, 12 Dogwood Lane. I have a question. Who oversees that
like fenced-in garden that's on the side of the school. Is there somebody that is in charge of the maintenance of that?
Is this something we can answer? I'm not familiar.
Mrs. Pascarello, so typically it's manned by folks in the community through the Boonton Township Green Team. However, we do seasonally plant with our younger students in there, and we also have some kids, the Girl Scouts, one of the local Girl Scout troops that has helped to maintain it as well.
So it's sort of voluntary, there's no
Absolutely.
boss or anything
Yes.
like that.
Correct.
So if it kind of looks raggedy, you just have to wait till somebody steps up, I guess?
Yes, but we communicate that with one another.
I mean, is this something that, I'm not sure like who to even ask of that, it's like a viable thing? Like a positive thing? I mean, for the most part, it looks really neglected, quite honestly.
So the Boonton Township Green Team was run by our former, by Barbara Shepherd, and also the woman who contributed, Patty who ran the recycling, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Essentially.
Yes, okay, great, thank you. And they both have moved on and left their positions, and so currently the Boonton Township Green Team is,
I mean, I understand,
yeah, you know,
volunteers
so
are hard to
I think it's just
find.
going through an organizational shift, and there's definitely interest from people to push to get back together. And I think I know a Girl Scout who's working on a gold project who would like to take it on and see that certain groups take ownership of it, so.
I mean,
it's
I
interesting.
understand the well intentions, but sometimes you have to kind of reassess the intentions,
Yeah.
because if the person there who's driving it is not there, it's like, you know, it's sort of,
Exactly.
it looks neglected.
Yeah, I mean, you could always ask Douglas Cabana, just share your thoughts with him.
I'm sorry, who?
Doug Cabana is
Oh,
the township
certainly will.
administrator.
Thank you.
If I may add something. You remember many years ago, the Green Team, through the town, had approached the district to allow them to use that space. So all through volunteer effort, all through fundraising, they put the fences up, they did all that, and they were maintaining up to that point.
I mean, I totally understand, but it really,
Needs help.
it needs help.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to recognize the manpower is just not there. I mean, it's just a fact of life.
I think it was just this past year when the transition's been happening, you know, when those folks moved on within the last year or so. It's just in transition, but hopefully we'll be back where we want to be. Because it was a good learning experience between Boonton Township Green Team and our students here. We had a Green Team advisor here.
Because there
It was
used
a
to be
very-
a wet garden too
Yeah,
at one point,
Yeah,
and that kind of
so it was a
got
very
reclaimed by
good
nature.
partnership with with the Boonton Township Green Team, and and it was a good experience for the students that participated. And we do hope to bring that back, after we get the right people back in place. That's my understanding. But thank you. Are there any other questions from the public on any matter?
Ellen Hardy, 24 Split Rock Road. I just wanted to share that I had the opportunity last night of participating in the third session of Mountain Lake's, their district-wide strategic planning. So I didn't make the first one, but I made the second session and the third session. For those of you who don't know, it was actually run by Charlene Peterson. It was phenomenal. It was incredibly inspiring. I'm really excited because I have a ninth grader who I think will be the beneficiary of some of the work that was done. And it was a fantastic effort because it wasn't just the administration. There were teachers there. There were board members there. There were many members of the public. I know Lee was there as well. I don't want to speak for her, but I just want to say it was an incredible amount of work and effort that went into it, and I'm really excited to see, I guess it's their intention to publish it and share it with the public in their January meeting. And, I know I'm a broken record, I've said this many times, but it is my fervent wish that we consider going through the strategic planning process. Having witnessed what they did there, it did not appear to be a major amount of work. Charlene Peterson was great at facilitating it, and I think it would be a great benefit to everyone in our community if we were to give that some thought. And I just want to close by saying thank you to all of you for your efforts during this year. I know you spend a lot of your personal time to be here to represent us in the community. So just wanted to say thank you and happy holidays.
Oh, thank you very much for your comments and your kind comments, and happy holidays to you too. Thank you.
And Mrs. Hardy, one of the topics that Mr. Fetterman and I will be discussing is strategic planning.
Excellent. That is wonderful. That's an early Christmas present for me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else from the public wish to address the board on any matter? Okay, if not, we'll move on to old business. Or is there any old business to come before the board? And is there any new business to come before the board? Okay. And let's see. I guess in advance of the January reorg meeting, whomever is elected president, I'll send out an email before the end of the year, just saying here are the committees that we have, here are the liaison assignments that we have, and what we usually try to do, what I've done, and whoever is the president next year, we try to have you rank your committee assignments by, from 1 to 6 or 1 to 7, depending on how many committees you have, 1 being the one I want to be on most, 7 being the least. And then we try to place you in committees where you want to be, and where you can be most effective, or where you think you can be most effective, and the same with the liaison assignments. And then the board votes on the liaison assignments at the reorganization meeting. We have to fill certain positions at that meeting. I think the Mountain Lakes representative, New Jersey school boards, and Educational Services Commission, because those folks have to move on and do certain things, on behalf of our board. So I'll send that out before the end of the year, and then you'll have a chance to digest that and rank them. And if you have any questions about any of those things, just let me know. And then at the January meeting, we'll try to figure as much of it as we can out. And then as far as the committee assignments, whoever is president assigns the committees, like whoever's on the committees at that point. And I see a hand over there.
So there are currently 7 committees.
Yes.
And we're going to have at least 1 ad hoc committee, if not 2.
Yes, so I guess we have a standing negotiations committee, which is appointed every year. Every 3 years, it addresses the Boonton Township Education Association contract. And in intervening years, when we're not negotiating the contract, it's available in case there's any amendments to the Boonton Township Education Association agreement. And then every 10 years, we'll be appointed an ad hoc committee to address the Mountain Lakes agreement between the 2 districts, as we discussed earlier. And since the agreement is going to be coming up in a year and a half, we're going to start appoint an ad hoc committee to start reviewing the agreement, discussing the agreement amongst ourselves, being familiar with the agreement, and moving forward. So yeah, so it should be 7 standing committees and 1 ad hoc committee. That makes sense, but thank you.
I thought there were 2, okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the negotiations for BTA has been a standing committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that particular negotiations committee was appointed for that purpose, and then Mountain Lakes will be the ad hoc. That makes sense, sir. Any other questions? Okay, if not, there is no closed session, no need to reconvene, no other board action. I'd like to wish you all a happy holiday, a healthy and safe holiday, and we'll see you all in January. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn? No. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? No. Any discussion? Okay. Thank you very much.